Hello, hello, hello. Well, thank you so much for being here with us once again on another episode of A Legacy of Love. And today we have someone very special joining us. Her name is Tammy Vincent. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, how are you today?
Just fine. We would love to hear about you. What do you do for a living and a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, my name is, like you said, is Tammy Vincent, and I am an ACOA empowerment coach. So a lot of people might not know what that is, but it's adult children of alcoholic and dysfunctional family. And I coach those type people because I am an adult child myself. So I grew up, make a long story short, with two alcoholic parents. One was a drug dealer, and a drug addict. And I got passed around to a lot of different people, told I was unworthy, just treated not very nicely, honestly, for the first many, many years of my life. And at about 26 years old, when I realized that I was getting ready to have a child and I did not want these habits and patterns to follow, I went on a different path and a journey to really figure out why and the dynamics and the science and the history behind everything that had happened to me. And in doing that, I grew a toolbox of tools. Like I became an NLP practitioner, I did Reiki, I did EFT tapping, I did all these things. And I realized after about 30 years, I have so many tools to share with people. So that's what I do now. I share them.
Wow, that is fantastic that you actually turned your story over. You turned it around and you've done so many wonderful things. Could you share how your life was back then? Because I know there's going to be a lot of people on my audience that are going to definitely connect with you, and your story will definitely resonate with what they have been going through, or they're still there. But we would love to hear more about your story.
Okay. Well, like I mentioned, I had both of my parents were alcoholics. So there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of dishonesty. There was a lot of, I didn't really understand things like the fact that when you're drinking, you say things to people that you don't mean, or you say things to people that you don't believe. So as a child, it was very, very confusing. I can remember my mom telling me she hated me when I was 5 years old and being like, who says that? And then the next day asking my father, and my father just saying, oh, she didn't say that, or she didn't mean that, or she was drinking, so that doesn't matter. And there was just so much confusion. And then it got worse as I got older. Then I guess she figured I was an adult now at 14, 15 years old, and she could treat me like an adult. So I was parenting both my parents. I was getting my mom, holding her hair back so she could vomit in the toilet and calling in sick for work to her. And all the while she was a child psychiatrist and my dad was a high-end stockbroker. So on the outside we had this seemingly perfect, well-to-do life, and I was living, the best way to put it is like a chameleon. So I was literally putting on whatever face you needed me to put on, being whoever you needed me to be. I could be the perfect person, I could be the rebellious one if I was with a tough crowd. And it was just very, very confusing. And I mentioned that I realized at 26 that something had to change, something had to give. So at 26, I literally was reading the book Love You Forever. Have you ever read that book?
It sounds familiar.
So it's a very cute children's book about a unconditional love between a mother and her son.
Hmm.
And like the little boy goes through all these normal stages of being a child. He goes through the terrible twos. He goes through being a toddler and a teenager. And all through the thing, the mother is loving the child unconditionally because that's what parents do. And what should have been this happy moment reading this book, 7 months pregnant, hit me like a two by four because I realized I didn't even understand unconditional love. Like, had no idea what it was even. I mean, I had no memory of hugging my parents. I had no idea, inkling about what love even could be. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but that's what threw me into this healing journey because I had a child to care for. I mean, I had another being besides myself. So I went in and really tried to learn and just get as much as I could get. I mean, I was a shell of a person. For some of the people out there that don't really, when somebody says, what do you like or what lights you up? There's people out there that don't know that nothing lights them up. What lights them up is just getting through another day. And I realized that's not how I want to live my life. And now that I coach people, I realize that there's so many millions of people out there walking around content with life, just going, oh, these are the cards that were dealt to me, and this is just the way it is. So I became a chronic people pleaser. I'm going to kind of throw out some words that people may kind of resonate with. No, I couldn't stand up for myself. I couldn't say yes to me. Anybody wanted to do anything, it was automatically whatever you want. I folded to everything. And it took a lot of time and a lot of work to get over that. But I finally got to a point, and it was all about this underlying belief that I just wasn't good enough, which is obviously a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
But I had been told I wasn't good enough so long that it stuck with me. And some people think, you need this big T trauma, like you need to be sexually abused or you need to be verbally beat down or physically beat down. But it can just be the small being ignored, or it can be, the parents that work so hard that just don't have the time for a child. So a lot of that does the same thing. And that's why I like to help people become aware, like, oh, maybe my past, even though it was seemingly perfect, maybe I do have some, abandonment issues or just some wounds that are worth exploring.
Yeah, because I bet there's a lot of people that will definitely connect and resonate with your story, and they might still be there, or they might be healing, or they might need that support with someone to talk to and say, well, you know what, this is what I'm still dealing with. And what would you tell people that are going to listen to your story that are still struggling with memories of their childhood experiences with their own parents, or maybe they're married to someone, or who knows? What would you tell them? Because I bet it takes a lot to recognize that you're having these problems or you've been dealing with this because, as you know, there's sometimes a lot of secrecy in different cultures and, families as well.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of denial, there's a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of people telling you what to think or what to believe. But I always say go back to trying to trust your gut instinct, because everything we have, all the beauty, all the joy, all the authentic being that we have that we were born with is still inside of us. But we lost it somewhere along the way when people were telling us what to say or what not to say or who to be or how not to show emotion or how not to stand up for yourself. And as an adult, we get those gut punches, I call them. Somebody says something and it just doesn't feel right, or it just doesn't sit with you right, and we ignore it. We brush it aside, or we go, oh, it's okay, I'll deal with this later. And my best advice is to start listening to that and to start honoring it, because it's your instinct. It's who you truly are. So if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. If somebody says something and you want to say, no, I don't think it's that way, instead of quieting yourself, say, hey, start small, but hey, it's not that way. Like, I don't think so. And really start listening to your gut, because your instinct will tell you something. And I feel like your instinct, when you've gone through a lifetime of just other people telling you what to do, think, and say, you're ignoring your instinct. So in that, you're ignoring who you truly are. So I tell people, when you get that feeling, write it down. Just write it down. I know that sounds weird, but take a notebook. I carried a little journal with me everywhere. I still do it. If I have a thought and I'm like, well, that was kind of weird, but I don't want to deal with this right now, I'm going to write it down and then I'll sit with it later. But just start writing things down and being curious without judgment. A perfect example is if you're sitting here and in your heart you're a nice, kind person, and somebody says something and you snap at them, you might think to yourself, well, that's not really me, and then just let it go. Well, if it's not me, then it might be worth exploring. Like, why would I do that? What made me snap at that person and acted kind of out of alignment with who I am?
Yeah, most definitely. I agree because it must have to do with something in your past or your past experiences, and it's not what you want to share with a person that you're with or you snapped at, but necessarily, but it might be something that it's tied or related to an experience or a moment, an incident that already passed, but somehow it triggered you to snap at someone else. Where could people, I know you told me before we were on this recording that you've written books. What are your books about? Where could they purchase them? Where could they reach out to you?
Everything probably the easiest is just through my website, which is just my name, tammyvincent.com. Both of my books are available there because I got banned on Amazon. I know that's a whole nother story, but artificial AI just banned me for some crazy reason. But you can find both of the books on my website. The first one is called Surviving Alcoholic Parents, a teen's ABC guide to thriving in a world of chaos. And it is literally an ABC reference guide for teenagers. So
Wow.
that for I like to say it's the book I wish someone had handed me when I was 13, so I understood some of the things. Like A might stand for addiction, B might stand for blackout, because I didn't understand that when people were drinking and they said something that they truly didn't remember saying it. And I would be like, wait, what? It was just so confusing. And then it goes all the way to Z, which is Zen, which is how to have a little more peace in your life and grounding exercises and things like that. And then the second book is Helping Students of Alcoholics and Other at Risk Students. And it's an educator's guide to empowering the disconnected youth in the classroom. That is a guide that I wrote for teachers because I was a teacher and I realized how many kids are struggling right now. And sometimes as teachers, some teachers are themselves struggling with addiction or struggling with the traumas of the past. And so children can actually trigger them. And so this is a way of kind of learning how to identify the children that are struggling without singling them out.
Hmm.
So it's exercises and kind of how to empower a whole classroom to be more compassionate and more empathetic, and how to deal with adversity and things you can do with the whole class so that you don't have to be like, oh, he's struggling. And I mean, just to kind of really build a more, I guess, trusting environment in the classroom.
Oh,
And they're
wow.
both available on my website.
They are. So they would go to tammyvincent.com.
Yep. And you can just go to shop and both my books are there. They're in paperback and they're there in an ebook form. So I just send out a PDF.
Wow, that is fantastic. That is wonderful. Now, what would your last message be regarding this topic? Because um, you really, I believe that you would really want to resonate with people that are dealing with this so they could actually reach out to you directly. What would your last message be?
I think the last thing I would say is that if any of this resonated with you, if you got any kind of feeling or you thought, wow, that's me, and I'm just not quite where I want to be, it is worth exploring. It doesn't cost to reach out to have a conversation because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes it just helps to having a little bit of an accountability buddy to get you on the right path, or not even the right path, but a better path. If you're listening to this and you're not 100% where you want to be in relationships, money, friendships, job, it's worth exploring. And you're definitely, no matter how bad you think, oh, it's not worth it or whatever, every second, every dime, every minute you spend working on yourself to become more happy is worth it without a doubt.
Oh, wow. Well, I really, really love your message, and I know it's going to resonate. So, if you all that are listening today feel connected with the story, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad of where you've been or where you're still at or these struggles. As I share in my book, A Legacy of Love, it's always been baby steps, moving forward and recognizing. And what better person than Tammy Vincent that also has been able to overcome all these obstacles and all these struggles and challenges that life sometimes just gives you without you even wanting them or having a clue. She felt so confused. So I really thank you, Tammy, for being here with me today as we close this next episode. But thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.